What does it take to turn life's challenges into growth and purpose? Today, we're talking resilience, trauma, and personal accountability with Jay, an entrepreneur who knows what it's like to set his own goals, hold himself accountable, and push through adversity. Welcome back to Shit Creek Survivors, where we share stories of resilience and tools for resilience. When I looked at your description, first off, I need to learn more about podcasting, so I might actually kind of hit you up on the side about
this. Is no complaint.
I was worried you'd get on here and be like, "Oh no, what did I sign up for?"
I can tell you some stories, but this isn't one of them. This is the good stuff.
Good deal. Great. And so I saw that you grew up with in an Army family.
I'm an Air Force brat.
Air Force brat. Okay.
Air Force brat. Brother's a retired Marine. I went and did my Army thing after the high school and all that stuff. So short stint in the 90s and whatnot. But we covered all branches except for the Navy. But I guess my uncle was in the Navy. I don't know the guy. So yeah.
I had two different Air Force neighbors when I was in active duty in the Army. One in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and one in Heidelberg, Germany. They both got extra money a month for living in substandard living conditions because they were living in Army housing.
Base housing and substandard, huh? I grew up on that stuff.
Yeah.
Whatever, man.
Well, no, your Air Force's base is probably better than the Army base.
I'll tell you what. Well, no. Anyway. We're rabbit holes there, dude. That's a whole other podcast.
That's probably true, too.
Well, again, it's an honor to have you on. And what I've noticed that, we all have our own kind of walks in life where we feel like maybe we're in the dark in some places. And a lot of times you feel that in recovery. But I noticed even in taking on a new challenge, a new goal, such as podcasting, such as wanting to get out there and help people, a lot of the initial part, and I'm guessing you went through a lot of it, is you kind of feel out there alone in the dark, and you're kind of having to take this journey through space. A lot of people can't see it for you. They don't understand where you're going. They see who you were. They don't it's hard for them to see who you're going to be.
I'm still trying to figure it out, dude. I'm still feeling my way around the dark a little bit.
but it seems
more light than it was 5 years ago, but here I am. So yeah.
There we go.
But 5 years?
I've been doing this since 2017. It's podcasting, I mean, and long story short, my wife and I moved from the West Coast to the East Coast because of her job. And I had a job that allowed me to work from home, which I still do. I own this company, Exponet USA. So I'm able to stay home with my kids, so to speak, and, be around for all that and, whatnot. But we moved to this small town called Hagerstown, Maryland. It's like an hour and some minutes outside of DC, Baltimore, right? It's podunk, you know what I mean? Whatever. But I figured I got to meet people here. So I went out and I joined the Chamber of Commerce. And I got to meet, I'm still part of it too. I've moved away from there since, but I figured what better way to make friends than to get some microphones and stick it in their face and start podcasting, right? Because I asked the Chamber, 2017, I said, they were still sending people to a local AM radio station to get interviewed on. Like, that was a big deal. I go, it's 2017, man. I go, Joe Rogan, Adam Carolla, Bill Burr, everyone's starting to do the podcast thing. And I asked them if they wanted to do one. They kind of poo-pooed on it. So I said, screw it. So I started podcasting myself. And one of the chamber reps was nice enough to help get me some guests to interview. He knew what I was trying to do. I was on my own. Right. And I've been a DJ since 1989, but when it came down to all the audio stuff, I'm no expert at all. I'm no audio engineer. I got the most basic mixer and the headphones and the mics, and I just started doing. It was all audio until COVID. It was all audio until the lockdown. But I started doing it. I started meeting people, and it was a fun time. The nickname for the city of Hagerstown is Hub City. It used to be the big train hub in the East Coast way back in the day, the glory days in the 30s and 20s and all that. So I locked down the name and got the website called The Hub Show, and it took off. And we just had a good time. A lot of people kind of gravitated to it because no one else was doing anything like that around here. And I made some friends, a lot of, for better or worse, people came in and out of my door to get to know these people around this small town. It's a small town mentality. But that's when I started learning the podcast. And like I said, COVID hit and the pandemic, and I had to learn how to turn the cameras on. Everyone started doing it. Adam Carolla did. Everyone started turning the cameras on. It became a whole thing with YouTube. So we did something local again. We went live streamed on Facebook every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. When this is like literally 5 years ago, in the summer of 2020, we had city council members on. The mayor came in. It was a good time. We were going live, just winging it. You know what I mean? I learned a lot. Learned about all the technical part. I was doing the technical while I was hosting it, so I'm over here pushing buttons and got the head. And we were live streaming, so we had to watch what we say and all that stuff. It was a fun time. But I kind of let it go in 2021, stopped doing it. And I have all this gear for some reason, but I'm getting back to doing it. And I got my own thing in the works called Jay's World, the Jay's World Show. So I'll be interviewing people like yourself and other business people. I want to get more deep. And I'm kind of doing this solo now, which is probably the best bet. Just go out here on my own and do it by myself. Like I said, I had a little team for a while and people come and go. You know how life is. And you bump heads with some people and this and that. But otherwise, it was a great experience, good times. But I learned a lot. And now I'm getting ready to jump back into it. So there's that. Yeah.
Yeah. So what gets a person like you, because we're trying to crack the code on what makes these individuals different. People who will walk into something that's unknown and most people won't even step into that pond and you just kind of go for it. Have you always kind of been like that? Like it's just like you don't, let yourself pause or anything like that?
I mean, there's lots of things I wish I had done and done different. That's life, right? That's how we are. It's hindsight. But, being a military brat, I was a new kid a handful of times. How that goes, right? And then I have no problem walking into a room with people I don't know and just breaking the ice with somebody in there, and starting conversation with them because I grew up kind of having to do it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Just that. Being in the military too. I mean, you all remember your first day of boot camp. Remember getting on the bus and off the bus? You didn't know anybody. These are guys. It's a melting pot, right? Guys from all over the country. Now you're all getting screamed at. You're all listening.
A little distracted by the yelling and push-ups and drop your bag, pick up your bag, drop your bag, pick up your bag.
Within 2 or 3 days, there's already a camaraderie because of that, right? And all of a sudden,
lifelong, and it's lifelong too. I mean, I still have Facebook. I find people I went to basic with, and we'll start chatting again on Facebook, and it's like not a day's gone by that we've missed each other, and it's been 30 years, but.
Yeah, same here. Not a day's gone by where some new memory about it pops in my head. I haven't thought about it. I went in. I graduated high school in '91. I went in. I was 91 to 95 active duty. My whole senior year was Desert Shield, Desert Storm. So, it's weird. When I joined, the thing was still going on. So I was giving hoo-ah for all that, for signing up during the war or whatever. And then, but my first active duty station was in Korea, in Camp Humphreys. And I served with a lot of people who had come back from that. Some guys, weren't so happy about it. They came home from that after 8 months, 9, 10 months over there and got orders to Korea. Some of these guys had families and stuff. So I saw all kinds of drama about that. You know what I mean? But, it's just crazy world, crazy times, man.
Well, I was right behind you. I graduated in '91 as well, but I waited a little bit. I was trying to do photography with the Navy, and then I ended up taking the ASVAB for the Coast Guard. And an Army recruiter got me coming out after that, and the rest is kind of history. I went in '94.
I did 91, 95 active, 95, 99 in the National Guard, which I wish I hadn't done because it's time consuming. Meaning, I moved out to LA to get into the business and started doing the acting, and I started doing extra work and trying to get into that business, right? And it's a slog, man. I'm a young guy. I'm 22, 23 years old, and I get they got this, they need extras this weekend for blah, blah, blah. Like Robert De Niro's going to be part of this movie. You want to be in this, blah, blah, blah. Ah, shoot, I got drilled this weekend. There's a lot of that. I was like really, really regretting that decision, but only because it was getting in the way of some things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, conflicted with your interests.
Very conflicted with, trying to get on with life. You know what I mean? But I did it. I finished my 4 years in that. But then it's funny you mentioned the Coast Guard because in 2000, I don't know why, I saw that movie, The Perfect Storm.
Yeah.
I was not by that shit. I almost signed up and joined the Coast Guard, man. But now we're kind of.
Isn't that the one where they drown in the boat?
Yeah,
that scared me from being on a boat for a while.
Of course, Mark Wahlberg, they're out there fishing out there in Gloucester, Massachusetts. There,
That's
we're
funny.
baffled,
So
man, this is the rabbit hole we're going down here, dude.
Right. That's okay. That's part of it. This is what this is.
Man.
Well, there's no structure. We're just bullshitting.
now, what's something that's interesting though is that you saw that movie, and it intrigued you to go into that situation to help the people. So that's a differentiation between some people and others. Some people are like, never ever would I. You're like, maybe I should sign up for the Coast Guard.
I'm the Army. I was in the quartermaster, supply, food service, all that stuff. I was in the 24th Infantry Division up in Fort Benning and all that. I was in the aviation battalion in Korea and all that. But I was never like, a grunt, you know what I'm saying? But right. I don't know why. Just, everything looks romantic when Hollywood puts the music to it, and they got helicopters swimming in and people saving people, but.
Yeah.
This close. I took the ASVAB again. Matter of fact, it's funny because 9 years later, right, I took the ASVAB again, and I scored so high that they made me take it again because I thought I was cheating. And I ain't the sharpest tool in the shed, but after like 10 years
of being, you already knew some of the answers.
Yeah, it was weird, man. So
I was like, you already knew some of the answers a little bit just by
I don't know
and stuff, and the answers just came to you a little bit easier, probably.
Yeah, but then
you weren't as nervous either.
Yeah, but then I didn't do it. I went all that way. I went to the physical, the ASVAB, all the stuff, and I just said, nah, maybe not. I don't know why.
Was it meant to be?
Wasn't meant to be. Some brain fart said, no, don't do it. I don't know why, but here we are. Yeah.
So we obviously named the show for a purpose, and it's kind of we're trying to grab the people who are like on the outskirts, the people who at one point may have even thought that their story didn't matter, but it seems like everyone has a Shit Creek story. It's a situation or a time in your life where you got into a place or whatever it may be, and we have a lot of them in our lives, but we find that by sharing these stories, sometimes it allows some of our listeners to kind of relate a little bit more. Be like, oh, I've kind of been
resonate. I get it. Yeah.
Well, we're communal creatures. We're meant to talk to each other and get these thoughts out of our heads and help each other in that regard. So,
right.
And I was curious if you had a story like that you'd be willing to share, where you learned a lesson. I mean, it doesn't have to be the end all be all, or you don't have to be jumping off a helicopter and saving anyone.
Yeah, no, I say that. I tell people when they ask me about my military career, right, all 8 years of it, I just make sure they know I call myself a tweener because I wasn't in Desert Storm. Then I finished the whole thing up in '99 before 9/11, and the whole world changed, right? So
right.
So I don't have any stories to tell nobody except for 2 rotations at NTC out in the Mojave Desert. That's all I got. You know what I mean? But my brother though, he's a retired Marine, 24 years, and he went in 88, got out in 2012. And he just recently started opening up about a bad accident he had at the end of Desert Storm. We were still helping the Kurdish refugees. I don't remember this stuff in the news at all, if you remember it, but he was up with the Marine Battalion out there helping the Kurds. And he was a motor T. He was a truck driver. And he got into a head-on collision with a water truck, big water tank or something like that. And all he remembers is his lieutenant next to him went through the windshield and stuff like that. My brother got hurt. He got hurt to the point where, like, this is 1991. There's no internet, no cell phones yet. All I remember is it was like mid to late March, and a cop and a Marine show up at the door at 1 o'clock in the morning. That's never a good news, right? So I heard my dad. Right. My dad, who's a retired Air Force guy, I heard him going shit. You know what I mean? But they can't let him know that my brother Sean had been in an accident. And it's pretty severe, but he's alive, and they're flying him to Ramstein, to Germany, and all that good stuff. My brother, the few times, not a few. I mean, I visited with my brother a lot of times. Between going up to see him at Camp Lejeune and him coming to see us and the bases and whatnot. But it's just really recently he started opening up about that, like really started opening up about that, to the point where he's in the VA, sitting in like an AA meeting with other people who got their stories from the recent stuff, Iraq and Afghanistan and whatnot. And I encourage him to keep doing that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He's bringing up stuff he hadn't even thought about since then. I mean, from what I understand is the lieutenant didn't go through the windshield. His head did. So my brother just remembers a truck full of blood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was in the driver's seat. He got kind of crushed. He had to rehabilitate his left arm and all kinds of stuff, man.
I think it's like a survival technique. in those situations. You just kind of compartmentalize some of
Yeah.
this trauma and just don't even want to open that box again until later.
No.
I had a good friend Brandon on here talking about it. That's what he's still in the middle of, putting everything in the box, and he's like, I'll open that box some other day. And it sounds like your brother went through it enough. And he hid it for a while, and then he finally started opening up and talking about it and getting it out. And that's good, because you have to deal with that trauma. You can't just.
I feel bad you interviewing me. I don't really have stories like that. I don't have no survival. I didn't roll over with an IED going off and like that, and a Humvee and like that. But my heart goes out. Huh?
I was going to say, here's the thing though. This people who have Shit Creek stories are not always military people, right?
No, I know that, right.
Anybody can have a story. So I know that you took the time and walked into the darkness when you set up all this, like your company, right? Like the company you had behind you. That takes some cojones right there, right? Most people won't take that leap, and especially keep going with it, right?
Yeah.
So that's really that's resilience right there.
Right.
So I'm guessing there are many times in your life where you found yourself in a situation and you were like, you know what? The only way to get myself out of this is pulling my boots up. You know what I mean? Like
100%.
figuring it out.
Work-wise, yes. It's a roller coaster ride when you work for yourself, man. Trust me.
I'm figuring that out right now, because no one's really telling you what to do. You're having to make conscious decisions on a daily basis and believe in it.
Oh yeah.
And then you've got
social media. There's like 5 million people telling you 5 million different ways to handle it, how to do it. It's crazy, man. A lot of noise.
Right. Exactly. And it's like they're yelling those things from the stands while you're in the arena, actually in the fight. So, it just seems kind of not stressful sometimes, but you just got to be able to be.
I know I still have it, but it's starting to lose it up here. But yeah, I'm getting there.
That stress is amazing, isn't it? Stress can hurt, it can kill you.
It can.
How did you find the discipline to keep going in your endeavors? Is that something that just programmed into you, like you said, from a early beginning? Because I know that feeling. We would move around a lot. My dad was in the DEA, so I was born in London. Then we moved to Turkey. Really? Then we moved to St. Louis, and then we moved to Curacao, which is off the coast of Venezuela, part of the ABC Islands. And then we moved to Washington, D.C. That's more like grade school. That's more like when you show up and people are kind of figuring out who you are and you got to stand up for yourself. And then we moved back. Yeah. And then we moved back to St. Louis. So you're always kind of like the oddball, if you will.
You spent your childhood bouncing around?
Yeah. Yeah. I spent the majority of
my brother's the oldest of 3 of us. I'm the youngest. I'm the mistake. I'm the Maggie. My parents they had their Bart and Lisa. I came along 3 years later. You know what I mean? But, my brother, my dad's Air Force, retired. My brother's born in Spain. My sister's born in England. Then I was born. Well, I was supposed to be born at Peace Air Force Base in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, but they didn't have a hospital at the time, so they rushed me over the state line to Kittery Navy Yard in Maine. Kittery, Maine. I was born there. And then from there, we bounced to, we got stationed in Arizona, then we got stationed in Florida, then we did 3.5 years over in England. I spent a big chunk of my childhood in England with 3 channels and fish and chips and all that good stuff. And then, we come back. I came back to the States. I went into the 5th grade here, and it was fish out of water type of stuff. You know how it goes, man, right?
Yeah, the curriculums are a lot different. So
it was still an American. It's a DOD school on a base. I wasn't going like a British school where it looked like Angus Young or not like that. But, there's a whole world of people like yourself and me and whoever else. The kids of military, the kids of missionaries who bounce around like that. There's a whole subculture of us out there. You can look it up online. I did a deep dive on this about 10, 15 years ago, trying to figure myself out. Yeah. Just kids are just bouncing around a lot, and you really can't. Some people can handle it, some people can't. Some people can't handle new relationships. It's very easy to walk away. It's very easy to say goodbye to people and things because you've been doing it all your life. You know what I mean? All kinds of different psychological aspects to it,
But you're also learning some of the tools of the resiliency that you apply in your business endeavors.
Yeah. I mean, it's, sometimes you got to be an asshole, right? Sometimes you just go, okay, they don't want to buy. Fuck it. Move on. You don't be rude about it, but you just got to keep on trucking, man. There's more people. There's more fish out here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. What's that? Well, every no is an opportunity to move on to yes.
I mean, it has its days, but yeah, exactly. You got to think like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically living with the idea that the glass is always half full. You know what I mean? Like there's, keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. I
Yeah.
find myself sometimes, and I think this is probably a natural thing, and maybe you can relate. There are days when I'm like, whoa, like I am overwhelmed here, and I have to kind of rewind myself, ground myself, figure out like what my controllables are, what my uncontrollables are, what I can focus on, what I'm going to get the most return on, or that sort of stuff. You know what I mean? But that's hard to do as an independent person because you don't realize it. But a lot of times when you're working, you just show up at work and they tell you what to do. You do it for 8 hours and then you're gone. You get to leave everything there.
Sure. But when you work for yourself, it's so easy to think, oh, I don't have to do this. I can just go work for somebody else. Yeah. And that's the easy way out. I'm telling myself that for 12 years now. That's the easy way out.
Right.
Then there's a lot of responsibility running your own business. Obviously, it's do or die. Either I do it or I don't. And I keep the wheels turning, but at the same time, there's some freedom to it. It's my business, Yeah. This is also my other office. You know what I mean? I can do it anywhere. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. And it's funny how in life the grass is always it appears to be greener on the other side. So if you're working for somebody, you're like, man, I wish I could use this time towards my passion, my venture, the thing that I want to do. And then you get on that side and you're like, where's the money?
I got a good one for you, Cameron. If you think the grass is greener on the other side of the fence, try watering your own yard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to piss on it. Anyway.
Yeah, that too.
Dennis, what do you do now? What do you do? Dennis?
I'm in between right now. I left the place that we worked as a city department. I've been waiting for a federal law enforcement job here in St. Louis. They had some problems with the new building that they're building, and they were on a hiring freeze. But I got a call from them actually a couple weeks ago that they were going to lift that hiring freeze. So I should be hearing some news in October.
Looking good, huh?
Okay. So, yeah, I've just been going to the VA, taking care of myself that direction. Got my ratings, so I get a little bit of monthly stipend from that, and then we're not horribly put off right now, and I got a good sugar mama that's taking care of me. And
yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah. So back to what we were talking about, though. I keep my ear to the ground, though, still as a veteran, as someone who's been kind of connected to the military all my life. I remember, 9/11 happens, and we go into Iraq and Afghanistan and those messes and whatnot. And I checked in with my National Guard buddies. And some of them went over there. Some of them just wound up doing airport duty back in the day. Remember 9/11 was all airport guard and everything. My brother, though, he did Iraq, he did Afghanistan, did both of those. Did that on top of his Desert Storm stuff. He's got quite a list of things here. But I remember talking to someone came to my house when we moved here to Maryland. We put we got a DirecTV, and the guy that came to install it was a veteran. He and I got to talking. He was talking about him and a couple of his other buddies who were all like infantry and whatnot, and they're all like, two of them are recovering alcoholics. They're all dealing with some serious shit. This is like around 2015, 16. We're still over on both of those places. You know what I mean? Still dealing with stuff. And I just let him talk. I knew just let him talk. I said, I told him, I encouraged him. I patted him. I said, man, let it out. You sound like you got a lot of stuff bottled up, man. And to take it, and it's so easy, right? To do the alcohol thing and whatnot. A lot of people do, but obviously with people doing what you're doing, and there's a lot more support arms out here for people. They don't need to turn to that. You know what I mean? So
it turns out there's a lot more support out there than you realize, but at the same time, when you're struggling in the middle of it, you feel like that's the only option you have.
You get it.
You don't really hear those options, and
No.
It's such a weird rabbit hole to get caught into itself and negativity. But really, we're communal creatures. We got to talk to each other. When you hear somebody needs to tell a story, we all want to be seen. We all want to be heard. We all want to be validated. We all need affirmation. These are all things that we just, we need those things as human beings, whether we really realize it or not. So you can go get it from somebody else, or you can get it from a bottle. And obviously, the better, healthier choice is to get it from somebody else.
Talking to him, listening to other people going through what they're going through, and watching the stuff on the news, people coming back and dealing with what they're dealing with. I thank God I didn't go and get involved in that stuff. Lucky me, right? You know what I'm saying? But my heart goes out when I heard every other day you heard about like an IED bombing going off and blowing a Humvee over. I drove those. You know what I'm saying? I drove deuce and a half trucks and all that stuff. It could just as well have been me. So I remember when Iraq first broke out. for the first weekend, right? The whole thing with Jessica Lynch and all that, a little POW skirmish. That's quartermaster. That was a supply team. That could just as well have been me, And that was 10, 12
I was
years
gonna say
after.
that earlier. Don't sell yourself short just because you were in a quartermaster. You still went to the gun range, and
No,
you still would
that's
go.
what I mean.
Yeah, you would still be out on convoys. So I was an MP. We did convoy security for all of you guys. So that was a big part of my training.
That came up in the news when that happened. I mean, I was kind of glued to the TV all weekend with my heart in my throat because we trained to do all that stuff out in the Mojave Desert and all that. So I could, it resonated with me. I could relate, it was just crazy to me, But again, I like what you guys are doing. It's good. There's lots of people out there with support for people dealing with this stuff, and they still are. I just don't, not to pass out flowers here. I just hope we don't get involved in the stupid stuff like that again, man. Just, looking back at it,
Well, of course,
absolutely.
Hindsight 2020 on all that.
Oh, look what it does, man. You have a whole generation of people, soldiers, and people coming back with issues, man. We look back at the reason we went and why we shouldn't have gone, and it's like, was this worth it? It doesn't matter. People down the road from me in DC, it ain't their kids going, ain't their brothers and sisters going. You know what I mean? So that's all. I'm not saying kumbaya. I'm just saying, that's where my head's at the last bunch of years. So
I'm with you, and I noticed that men are encouraged to talk about this stuff a whole lot with one another. Right. And Dennis and I found out by kind of rolling around in the car for 12 hours, shift after shift after shift, eventually something will come up that was bothering us. And we were able to just, if anything, listen, just lending an ear. Sometimes the presence of ministry can go a long way. And again, I went to these AA meetings. Again, I at first was like, I don't belong here. This isn't for me. Someone said, I have an allergy to alcohol. I was like, that's it. I have an allergy to alcohol. Someone said, find a higher power. I said, you go find a higher power. I'm doing this. I'm going to get sober. And that's it. That's all I need. And I ended up struggling, trying to do it my own way. And I just kept hearing these stories of these gentlemen, because I would go to men's meetings and they'd be like, nothing changed until I hit the ground and asked for help. And I'm like, no. Heard it again. Nope. Heard it again. Nope. And then in my private time, when I was at my worst, I hit my knees and was like, Lord, if you're there, I need some help. Like I'm dying here. And then all of a sudden things started to get better because I cracked the door to something that I didn't even really believe in, but because I heard other people talking about it, I was willing to. I was desperate enough.
Yeah, something resonated with you. That's what it is, man.
Yeah. And I was willing to do that on my own. And then all of a sudden it worked. And I was like, oh shoot, so this actually works. And I know other people who've gone into the AA program and who have literally come to me and been like, this should be like forced curriculum to people in high school. It should be like,
right.
Yeah. You're being taught kind of how to live, how to be responsible for yourself, how to own your own actions, how to apologize when you screw up, instead of like, how to handle as best you can your ego and understand that that's like kind of a projection of your insecurities compared to like you at your best. And, it's just a lesson in kind of like living. And it's weird. I was what was I when I got sober? I'm sitting there, I'm 34 years old and, people are telling me what I need to do with my day. I'm pushing against it, all that kind of stuff. But once I started doing the things, it actually led to a sense of freedom, even accomplishment when I started getting stuff done. I didn't think I was going to be able to stay sober, honestly. But the scariest thing in my mind was I was going to kill myself by drinking after I got shot in the face by a 40. Like
this is what's going to take you out versus that. Yeah, 100%.
Right. Yeah. And it, there was enough shame. I did have a near-death experience a year exactly to the date I got shot. I ended up in the hospital anyway. That's a long story, but I even got to see the other side and hold my grandma's hand in heaven. But when I came back, I was just pissed off again. Like I didn't want to be here. I couldn't stand even being in my own skin, but after time, I had to be coached. I had to listen. I had to learn. I had to grow. And I actually started feeling better. I actually saw the results. And once I saw the results, I was like, there are people who need this information, especially guys who are making decisions on their own in the dark, classic bottle in one hand, gun in the other. And if we could do one thing, it'd just be to get them through the night. So tomorrow that they can make a clear decision and maybe they can talk to somebody.
Yeah.
It's even been shown just by talking to someone for 8 minutes, not even about what's bothering you. It can shift you. It can bring you back to, like Dennis was saying, we're communal creatures, I think, more than we realize. And just by saying the things out loud, it allows us to process the things that are actually coming out of our own lips. And a lot of times, like, you can say stuff to someone and they don't even have to respond to you. You're like, oh,
right.
Let me rephrase what I just said, because that sounded a little extreme.
Rewind that back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, really quickly, when you go to your trade shows and in the live event world, what does that entail? What actually are you marketing in that moment? Is it your company that's going to take them to another level, or how does that work in a live event space? Is someone coming to you for help, or is it people just kind of watching?
No. So I own and operate exponetusa.com. I'm a distributor, broker, dealer of all the trade show backdrops.
Cool.
All of them. From little to big, to the custom stuff, to the retractable banner stands, to the banners and signs sitting behind you right now. I do all that stuff. And I have facilities around the country. So I'm ready to go. Like, if you had an event, if you called me today's Wednesday and told me you have an event this Saturday in Vegas, you gave me the graphic files, I can make it happen. I'm same with New York and Florida and whatnot. I have people all around the country. I'm got a little network going on ExpoNet. Get it? Anyway, that's me plugging but that's what I do. So when I do go to trade shows, I look at people that have not the best displays going on. They're sitting next to someone who does, and you can see the whole, you see the contrast. And, hey, give me a call. I'll take care of you. And I'm a one-man operation with a couple of graphic designers, some web guys that kind of work like independently, 1099 of me, and we just make it happen. But I'm busy, and I'm, knock on wood, I got a lot of repeat clients, knock on wood, a lot of referrals, knock on wood, all that good stuff. But again, I'm just keep on trucking here, and no complaints. But that's what I do. So I try to help make people market their brands, their companies, from the little mom and pop guys who are going to the first trade show to people who just need to step up the graphics and do something different. I have all that stuff here for them.
We might have some work for you then. I've been tinkering with different designs on that Canva, and then I've been looking through different sites and stuff, figuring out how we could get more marketing stuff. Like I was just looking at golf ball stamps with our emblem on them just the other day. Jeep tire covers to replace our Jeep tire. I was thinking about putting our emblem on that. So I'm just searching around for these things on the internet right now.
Where are you guys located?
I'm in Atlanta. He's in St. Louis.
Yeah, I'm in St. Louis.
God did for us what we couldn't do for ourselves. And after I had lost my job with the department, my wife's office actually shut, and she's an insurance. She's an underwriter on the marine side, and she basically looked back at that manager, said, I can't lose my job. What do you got? They said, well, you got a promotion available in Atlanta, but you got to be there within 30 days. Wow. And we said, okay, let's do it. Sold our house, got down there. And it was honestly one of the best things that could have happened to me. When I first got down here, someone held the door for me, and I literally asked them what they wanted. Now I hold the door for other people. So it's really kind of like been a great opportunity to meet Southern hospitality and people actually being kind.
Yeah, here in St. Louis, it's kind of a culture shock. Even today, still, like in the grocery store, if you almost bump into somebody, you're like, oh, sorry. And they just look at you like, I don't know, like you got a dick growing out of your forehead, and they walk away. It's like, whoa, what the hell, man?
And it's sad. Yeah, it's sad, but true.
Yeah. So, Tim, how long have you been doing this? How long have you been doing the podcast? First of all,
we started at the beginning of the year, the first Tuesday of the year, and we've released 37 episodes, and we have a lot of people on deck to join us. So we're kind of trucking along. I'm also doing YouTube shorts on a daily basis. So I take the episode, I put it up on a Tuesday, and then daily I try to pull out digestible chunks of, the top things, and that way people hopefully find
you're doing a podcast. What's the name of your company?
The actual production company.
Well, I mean, obviously you're doing this podcast with the hopes to reach out to people and get them to talk and come on and deal with the issues. Right. But I mean, you're doing is the podcast and company all started at the same time? Was the company before the podcast? You know what I mean?
I think he's referring to your
all
PTSD
at the same time.
Support. Yeah.
Oh, my fault. Yeah, okay.
Together because they're behind you.
I gotcha. So,
and stuff too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I initially got when I initially got hurt, and I was getting sober, I kind of felt really alone out there. So I thought by creating a website, it might give me something to hold on to, kind of almost like an accountability buddy at the time. Like if I'm telling people that this what helps me, I have to live this way. Like I can't be hypocritical about this. So basic stuff was initially to have any hope, I had to get sober. I had to make sure I was taking my medicine. I had to make sure I was taking, I was meditating, going to therapy, physical fitness, and eating the right food. And I was able to start going into police academies and talking to active police officers about what had happened, what it's like being injured in the line of duty, what their recovery looks like, what PTSD is, and like kind of proactive and reactive care, and that's been going on for a while. I started that while I was still in St. Louis. So that must have been about 7 years ago.
Okay.
Just kind of tinkering with it, fiddling with it. I've worked with some departments down here in Atlanta. But it's a weird space when you're trying to help people in law enforcement and military, because they're encouraged to not acknowledge that anything is wrong.
Right.
You're encouraged to be like, to say, I'm fine. I'm fine.
Nothing's bothering me. Right. Yeah.
Nothing's bothering me. So they can check their box that they said, we asked him on this day at this time if he was okay. Boom. So it's hard to show up at a department and be like, hey, I've got this information about PTSD, because they don't want to put it in front of their guys and worry that they actually do have it. They don't even want to really acknowledge it. And it involves money, and money's tight when it comes to departments.
Money is more work, right?
Exactly. And more accountability. So what we decided to do the year prior to starting, my dad passed away, and I hadn't seen Dennis in a long time. So we ran into each other at his service, and I had been contemplating this idea. And when I ran into him, it turned out he was actually on his own journey. He was no longer in law enforcement, and he was trying to kind of process what had happened and kind of figure out.
I put off going to the VA the whole time I was in law enforcement here in St. Louis, because I was worried, and probably rightfully so, especially with the way the news media works around here, that if I ever got involved with a shooting, even if it was completely legal and righteous, if it leaked out that I had PTSD from going to Iraq, then it would just blow up and get could be blow up. Good pun there, and get bad for us and be a bad thing. And then there's also that macho thing that we always do as men, like, I don't need it, somebody else needs it more than me. So I just put off it all and didn't realize how bad it had been getting. I think the stress of law enforcement added to it, didn't help anything. I think after Ferguson, it made me feel like I was deployed again in a lot of ways, always looking over my back. And, it took it, Ferguson happened, 3 or 4 years after I got back from Iraq. And I think I just got to the point where I stopped looking at trash on the side of the road the same way as I did when I was over there. And then all of a sudden, everybody's talking about how bad the police officers are, and we're the root of all the problems. And it probably put me back there for a little bit, and then not really even knowing that was the problem until I had this time off, which is kind of a godsend and blessing too. So I went to the VA. I started talking to a therapist. I got my rating. I figured out that I was putting the things in the box, and I wasn't dealing with it. And so I finally got things out of the box, started looking at them and dealing with it, because turns out some of that trauma can taste pretty bad in your mouth for quite a while, no matter how sweet life gets, until you filter it out. So we ran into each other. We started talking about it and said, I like this idea that you have of the podcast. You be Johnny Carson, I'll be Ed McMahon. and we'll have this thing work through. So
good for both
so
of you.
far so
That's
good.
good.
And we're being accountable partners to each other. So even just talking right now with you, even if it's about business and stuff like that, we're still just grown men talking about things, and it feels good, and it gets me talking with people. It gets me me accountability for him. He's my accountability too, and now you're going to be accountability for us as well today in your own way. So it's all
I'm holding
important.
you
It's all
accountable.
yeah. It's great
I'm
stuff.
holding you accountable.
Well, you're going to help us with some marketing stuff too, I think, and learning how to do this stuff better. And you have listeners that may never have ever heard us before, because now they will. Because
I'm literally getting ready to launch my new podcast. I haven't done it in a couple of years, man. So I have this.
This is good practice for you.
This is great, but it's just like riding a bike. I can get on here and talk all day long, but how long has
it's even natural at it?
Yeah.
You know what's interesting is I kind of started the idea of the podcast. Like, I wanted to share my story. I know Dennis had a story to share. We wanted to talk about how we got better, and then as time went on, we're like, I wonder where the podcast is going to go. And we didn't force it straight down the military line or straight down the law enforcement line. We're like, let's just talk to people. Everyone's got a story. And what happened is the podcast transformed into something just bigger than I thought it would be. Before you know it, I'm being contacted by an anti-bullying clown, who wants to come on here and talk about childhood trauma that they experienced and how they've transitioned that into helping people. We've had military personnel on here. We've had an Army chaplain on here.
Drug dealers
turned chaplains. Had dealers turned chaplains. I literally
all
had
life, huh?
Yeah, all over the place. I got to go into a jail and actually share my story with some inmates, and that was nerve-wracking to me, initially.
People are dealing with shit, and like you said in the very beginning, and this is as I'm older now, I look at life and look at everything. I don't give a shit about race, anything like that. We're all individuals. We're walking our own path, and what you've gone through, what I've gone through, and what you've seen and what I've seen, it's all different, and it all affects us differently. So we all have a story to tell, but yeah, there's people like the bullying thing. Some people get, we grew up, that wasn't uncommon, seeing people getting bullied ourselves. You know what I mean? Where does that come from? And what does it lead to for some kids? You know what I mean? Some people into adulthood. High school is not nice for everybody. You know what I mean? Middle school and high school, growing up. Some people are glad to get away from it. You know what I mean? So different world.
Yeah, absolutely.
People are talking. You're helping. People are talking. These podcasts are good for that stuff. There's 400 million podcasts out there. We're just dropped in the bucket, but you're finding people who want to talk. And that's
if it helps one person out there listening, that's just worth it.
100%.
And I've gotten approached on the street. They see the sign on my truck or something, and they'll be like, "Hey, I listen to the podcast. I think it's good stuff you guys are doing." But I mean, you get some positive feedback, and it just fuels the fire even more. And I think one of the things that there was a comment on one of our very first couple episodes where some lady said some words and then deleted it right away. And I wish I would have screenshotted it so I could have addressed it better. But she's like, I got diagnosed with PTSD, but I wasn't in law enforcement. I wasn't in the military. I don't think I deserve that, title or whatever. And it's like, that's why we had to be like, it doesn't matter if you weren't in the service. Don't comparisons to
cops. Right. Yeah. They think Vietnam. They think PTSD. You know what I mean? I know, but trauma is trauma, right?
Right. So, and that's the part that that's the part that's all similar. You don't have to go to war. You don't have to be shot in the face to have trauma. And it turns out dealing with it is being resilient, not giving up hope on yourself, not thinking that the day's over. Like, stop focusing on yesterday. Stop worrying about tomorrow. Be present. Control what you can control. We all have to use those tactics no matter whether it's, a bad day at work or a really bad day at work for Cam.
Yeah. Yeah.
We all have
military to the corporate life, to the cubicle farm. I've been in it, man. I've been on the warehouse floors. I've driven forklifts and all this stuff. I've been around people in different situations and different environments, and people to people. There's assholes everywhere. You know what I mean? And there's people dealing with stuff. You know what I mean? So it's what it is.
And I'm learning more that I can be one of those assholes.
Well, you have to be sometimes, man. It's our nature, man. But,
I spend my time finding these assholes and pointing them out, but then I'm like, I'm being an asshole. You know what I mean? So it's
all this talking helps you look at yourself a bit too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the hope. Thanks for listening to today's conversation with Jay. Remember, resilience isn't about never falling. It's about getting back up, learning from the journey, and holding yourself accountable along the way. Share your story, lean on your community, and keep moving forward. If you enjoyed this episode or think it would be valuable to someone else going through their own shit creek, make sure you subscribe, like, and share so more people can hear these stories and build their own resilience.